All right, I would like to begin by accepting all of the committee amendments on pages 5 and 6 of the committee analysis. I would also like to thank staff for all of their assistance over the last several weeks. Senate Bill 850 will authorize up to 15 community colleges to offer a baccalaureate degree in areas of critical workforce demand. Nationally, over 4 million jobs remain unfilled. It isn't because we don't have the workforce to meet that demand. We don't have the right workforce to meet that demand. For-profit universities are filling the vacuum. Our veterans, students of color, and students from low-income communities attend these for-profit schools, often graduating with substantial debt and a questionable credential. Senate Bill 850 will empower 15 community college campuses to offer a workforce baccalaureate degree to a diverse student body in an 8-year pilot program. Each of these degrees will be in an area of regional workforce need, and none would duplicate a degree already offered by the California State University or the University of California. Senate Bill 850 will allow California to join more than 20 other states that offer high-quality baccalaureate degree programs at the community college level. Consistent with the community college's longtime mission of workforce preparation, programs offered under SB 850 will be targeted to meet regional workforce demands and build on the unique career technical education expertise of California's community colleges. A job will be waiting for virtually every SB 850 graduate. SB 850 passed out of the Senate with unanimous bipartisan support and numerous co-authors in both parties. I would also like to thank Assembly members Chavez, Levine, and Fong for agreeing to co-author this legislation. Supporters of SB 850 include the Community College Chancellor's Office, the California State University, the Community College League, dozens of community college districts, every major veterans group in California, the California Chamber of Commerce, and numerous regional chambers and economic development groups up and down the state. With me today to testify in support is San Diego Community College District Chancellor Dr. Constance Carroll. Also with me today is Karen Zamarripa from the California State University.
Yes, thank you very much. You have a folder that includes several items, a white paper putting this concept of the community college baccalaureate in perspective nationally, and from a California perspective, a list of supporters, and also a possible, though not vetted, approach to how the student fee structure would work. I'd like to just point out several things about this particular bill. First of all, it addresses changes in workforce requirements. Very important to emphasize that this is not about turning community colleges into 4-year degree-granting institutions. It's about the development of workforce programs for career and technical education, since there are now many fields, a number of fields, where the bachelor's degree is now preferred or required in lieu of the former associate degree. And because workforce education is one of the top missions of the California community colleges, we feel that we need to adjust to that new reality in order to make our students competitive. It is also the case that our public universities do not offer degrees in these fields, and SB 850 goes out of its way to underscore the fact that there would be no duplication with public universities. Fields like dental hygiene, health information technology, radiologic technology, American Sign Languages, IT management, and some others fall into these categories. I'd like to state that the mission of the community colleges would not change in any way. These would be just a few degrees limited to workforce fields. It is the case that 21 states in America now authorize their community colleges to offer bachelor's degrees in workforce fields for the same reasons. They have a tremendous track record of success from which we can learn. SB 850 is a pilot program. There will be only 15 degrees offered under the pilot program. That will then get, and a report will be issued. That will give the legislature then an opportunity to study this, to see how it worked, what the responses were, what its economic benefits were, to tweak it if necessary, rather than go full bore into the program. As you note, it's broadly supported by community college districts, by organizations, by state university, by chambers of commerce, veterans associations, and many others who understand these workforce needs. It's affordable, accessible, practical, and it's entirely about jobs. The community colleges, last, are ready to do this. The community colleges would be building in large measure upon existing associate degrees. These are associate degrees in which we have almost 100% retention of students, strong degrees aimed at the workforce. In some cases, only a few more classes would need to be added. In the Foothill De Anza dental hygiene model, they would only need to add 4 more classes in order to round out the degree. In a degree that would be proposed in my district, health information technology would require only 9 more classes. The facilities are there, especially since the passage of so many bond measures in community colleges. The quality is there, and the faculty is also in place.
I'm going to need to have you answer.
Yes.
You've used everyone's time, so but your testimony was very explanative. It was very helpful.
Then let me conclude by simply saying that I respectfully request an aye vote from the committee.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is a test. This is Karen Zummery with the California State University. We are in support of this measure. It is an indication of what we consider to be a very strong, healthy, positive collaboration that we have with our community colleges in serving students, and we're proud to be a part of this. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Vin Stewart with the Community College Chancellor's Office. I want to thank the author for bringing this bill forward. We're in strong support, and for the reasons previously stated, we urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Patrick McCallum, representing the Foothill De Anza, Los Angeles, Pasadena, San Diego, South Orange County, West Kern, Peralta, Yosemite, and Yuba Community College District. This legislation does not distract from our efforts to focus on student success of all students. It is student-centered. We're talking about maybe 450 students of 2.5 million total population. So we ask your support for the bill.
Other witnesses, just please state your name, your affiliation, and support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Tony Gonzalez, representing the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. We strongly support the bill.
Good afternoon. Michelle Underwood on behalf of the San Bernardino Community College District in support.
Lizette Everett with the Community College League in support.
Magdalena Cazares with San Diego Unified School District in support.
Casey Elliott on behalf of Rancho San Diego and Coast Community College Districts in support.
Any witnesses in opposition? Any witnesses with testimony neither in support nor opposition? To the committee. Mr. Medina.
Yes. As a former community college trustee and now chair of Jobs Economic Development, I very much understand the need for a program like this and filling those occupations where I think kind of go unfilled previous to this. And so I think it's a good legislation. Want to support it. I just have a question. How will these 15 pilots be chosen?
So, sir, there's a fairly exhaustive process that each prospective program would have to go through. Information would have to be submitted, including the administrative plan. All of these programs would have to become accredited. They would have to go through first being recommended by the community college chancellor and then ultimately going in front of the Board of Governors for selection and consultation with the CSU and the UC. So it's a very long process, and we want to make sure that every program is of the utmost quality as they move forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Linder.
Please send my support to the senator. I've got to tell you, for some reason, I really like this bill. I have some concerns just after the pilot program's done, how something like this gets funded. But I'd like to request if I could be added as a co-author in the meantime, and I'd love to work with the author in the future.
Absolutely, thank you, sir.
Other comments? Assemblymember Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate what Senator Block is trying to do here. Obviously, we have a situation in California where we just can't serve all of the students who really are seeking degree programs. And so I know that's his intention, and I applaud that wholeheartedly. Having said that, I do have concerns. And so I thought I'd bring up a couple of what those concerns are and ask if you guys could respond to those. One of them is right now, and I realize not everybody who goes to a community college is seeking an associate's degree. There's certainly a certain segment of the population that's there for other purposes. But having said that, today only 30% of people at community colleges are getting their either associate's degree or transferring or earning the certificate they're seeking within 6 years. And so I'm having trouble understanding why we would begin a brand new program allowing community colleges to offer 4-year degrees when they haven't yet proven to be very successful in awarding the certificate and degree programs that they already offer today. So that's one of my questions, if you could respond to that. Sure. And then my other question, which you spoke to pretty effectively actually in your opening, but if the 4-year degree programs can't be duplicative of what either CSU or UC are offering today, I'm not sure that leaves a whole lot left, although your presentation caused me to realize perhaps I'm wrong about that. You mentioned dental hygiene, health information technology, and so perhaps you could speak to whether you've looked at the universe of degree programs that would still be available to be offered, how many of those you think there might be, and the impact that that could have, recognizing the fact that you couldn't duplicate anything that CSU or UC is already doing.
Yes, the first question, the community colleges do have a long way to go in terms of having more students complete their programs within a 2-year period, those who are in. The programs that we're talking about here are programs that students do complete in 2 years. They're mainly full-time students, and they would continue on. I mentioned they have about 100% retention already. So this would be a way of capitalizing on students' needs, students in programs where there is a great deal of focus on completion and outcomes. The universe, as you mentioned it, has a number of programs that the CSU does not offer, or the UC. And I mentioned dental hygiene, health information technology, and some of these, which is where we would focus during the pilot program. I wouldn't be able to quantify how many, but they are significant. And what happens to the students now is when they are completing many of these programs without an option to go to a CSU, they have 2 choices. One of them is to enter a very high-cost for-profit university, and the other is to leave the state and go to Arizona or Nevada or somewhere else. So I think the state chancellor's office would pay close attention to this kind of data.
Okay, that's very helpful. Is there any language in the bill that would require the community colleges to focus the offerings on those very programs where you said you have 100% retention?
I could say that within the bill currently we make very, very clear that we're not to duplicate what CSU and UC are doing, and we're not to duplicate program curricula that they're doing. Mm-hmm. So it makes clear where the lines are. We don't call out specific programs because this gives the community colleges an opportunity to be innovative in some of their top programs. So lest we single out 5 or 6, we're giving 112 campuses the opportunity to look at their highest performing program and potentially see, provided they meet all of these requirements, where they can engage.
Ms. Olson, I just would like to add a couple things in the spirit of our true interest in doing this collaboratively with the community colleges. Let me first say that I'm older than a lot of people around this table, unfortunately, and many of the same conversations that we had at the California State University about offering applied doctorates. There was a conversation about whether we were equipped and whether we were prepared, were we doing a good enough job. I think this bill is written in a very precise way to recognize workforce needs that aren't being met. And I think that the provisions that we provided, including assessing that unmet need, as part of the submittal to the Chancellor's office is one of the steps that we thought was very important. But I'll also agree with Mr. Powers. You don't want to limit it because, frankly, each region, in some way, the community college district, are going to be working together. And it may be a joint decision at some point with a CSU and a community college that it's something that we haven't even imagined today. So we feel confident that there's a good evaluative process here. There's a good set of data that drives the conversation. It encourages a kind of collaborative approach at a regional basis that I think will be exciting and give us some new avenues and opportunities. So for that reason, I'd urge your support.
Okay.
Assemblymember Wilk.
Yeah, if I might, Assemblymember Olson. To the issue of our success rates, and I would agree, as Dr. Carroll indicated, that we've got a long ways to go. But I think the distinguishing factor with our students is when they arrive at our doors ready to do college-level work in math and English, that 30% goes to 70%. So I think we have made significant strides there. And I think that would be something that we would certainly take into account as we look at the pilot and the colleges that would come forward in terms of what are the strengths on the ground in terms of their own completion rates, what are the workforce needs, as my colleague from the CSU indicated. So I think there would be a lot of thought in terms of identifying programs and campuses that could do this successfully in the spirit of the intent behind the bill.
Okay. I appreciate your responses. I think this is a huge risk that we're taking, but it is a pilot program, and I think we're at the time in California where we need to take some risks in higher education to figure out how we can improve the system to make it sure it's working for everyone. So you were convincing in your responses. I'll be willing to take that risk with you today. A little nervous about it, but wish you all the best and hope it's successful.
Mr. Chairman?
Assemblymember Wilk has been waving his hand
Are you sure, Mr. Chair? Are you sure?
For some time. You guys all remember in classroom.
Anyway, I got two comments, and then I got a couple questions. In terms of comments, I think we're a little unfair to community colleges when it comes to completion. I think. I knew I was going to get you. I know, because I think how we measure completion and how a student measures completion is completely different. I just know from my own personal experience, our auto tech program, they never finish, but they leave and they take jobs at $65,000 a year, and they leave and they get the rest of training there. So to me, if I'm just a student and now I've taken a few classes, now I'm making $65,000 a year doing what I wanted to do, to me that's completion. That's just little editorializing. And then in terms of workforce development, I mean, I think we're right. I mean, in 2007, and an app was a job app or an application to college. Now it employs almost 500,000 people, and it's a $21 billion industry, projected to be $38 billion in just a couple of years from now. So I think this is really exciting. I just had a couple questions about the program itself. Students, would they be able to enter it in year 3, or is this going to be like a cohort type situation? Because I know a lot of career tech stuff that at least on my campus, we're doing a cohort. Just curious on that, or we may not even know yet, but just
year 3.
Yeah, no, absolutely, sir. So year 3 is the game plan. The goal is to make this a +2 program. We even specify in the bill too that in your first 2 years, if you're taking regular, I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, sorry, that someone was correcting me. If you're in your first 2 years, you're going to be paying the same amount that you would normally pay per unit. So it's not until a student matriculates into that baccalaureate degree program in their upper division level that.
Great. So that's my follow-up question. Third year, do they qualify? Do they continue to qualify for a BOG waiver?
Yes,
okay.
sir. So yeah. Though, it's worth noting something we've been talking about is that BOG waiver. And this is something frankly, that we need to figure out in appropriations. But that BOG waiver may cover the initial $46 a unit, and then the additional fee on top of that would be separate. But the BOG would still apply.
And Cal Grant B and Pell would go up to follow the student.
And I'll note that it is for that reason that we have required in the amendments that any institution that has this pilot would have all of their BOG waiver students qualify with a FAFSA because of the idea of trying to accomplish this financially without leveraging federal dollars is truly important. Dr. Weber.
Yes, thank you. And I too appreciate the work of Mr. Block. He called me this afternoon, and some of you may know his father passed, and so that's why he's out of town. And he made known to me that, this has been a bill he's been working on for a while, and this is really a priority bill, and it's just a matter of circumstances that he's not here. And I'll tell him you're doing a great job. Just simply want to say, I too. Oh, you thought he was Block? You hadn't seen him before? Well, he'll pretend. Just make sure you get his check at the end of the month. Yes. But I think, too, I continue to have apprehensions and concerns, coming from the other side of the world of the university. My first concern was one about space, but fortunately it's being limited because I felt like at some point our community colleges are supposed to be the every place for people to come in, and the last thing I want to do was start turning students away because we had too many students hanging around trying to get this bachelor's degree, that it wasn't the door that was opening and letting students in. So by limiting the number, that means that probably at the most there'll be 60 seats in every school that these four-year students will be holding down. And so I think for the good of what they're accomplishing, that will be fine. I continue to have issues about bachelor's degrees and definition of what bachelor's degrees are as a BA or as a BS versus an applied degree. And that is going to continue to be my concern. My expectation of a person with a bachelor's degree, particularly in not only in the field of what they're doing in workforce, but also the other things that are required in a bachelor's degree in terms of other levels of exposure to information, so forth and so on, literacy skills, those kinds of things. I'm hoping that will be critical that's there, because I know occasionally, too often, I get students who transfer in who have to repeat courses, who have to do remediation. And I hope at some point that the program addresses that in the third year of that student, to make sure that those students who've done the first 2 years really have the literacy skills that are necessary. Because the last thing I'd want is to have a bachelor's degree, a student who didn't have the same comparable literacy skills in writing and reading and what have you that everybody else had. And I know occasionally I get that happening with my students coming in from community colleges, not always, but obviously we have to do about 60-70% have to undergo remediation when they get there. And that's a general concern of mine, and I'm hoping that in the process we will deal with that, and the issues, I know the issues of staffing will be handled by them. At some point, I think, and I mentioned this, I guess, the other day to some of the others, that at some point we do have to really, at the state level, have a discussion of our master plan and what that means and how all this fits in, because it's an old plan that has really good parts to it, but I'm not sure if it's evolving at the manner in which we should, and I've talked about that, and so hopefully we will organize some things in the fall to talk about the master plan, because this should get us to a point of talking about what do we mean by a BA, what do we mean by a BS, what do we mean even by applied degrees, and some campuses have talked about that. Even our discussions at the university level about giving the doctorate degrees was a discussion where we decided that the CSU degree would be more applied, and so as a result, that's why we have the EDD versus the PhD as a standalone degree program, because we recognize the fact that those coming in would probably be practitioners. They'd be your superintendents, your school principals, your educational practitioners versus the educational scholars who do the research and all that other stuff. And so we have two different kinds of degrees. We have the EDD and the PhD. And so as we continue to evolve and talk about workforce and the various types of degrees that come, some will automatically fall into the BA and the BS because of the structure. Some may fall into the applied area because of the structure and the need. And so we haven't had that kind of discussion that I think you have to have as for a system as large as this, as we continue to get bills and start piecing it together and start thinking about where does CTE fit and where does all this other thing fit in terms of our vision of a higher ed, and we haven't really done that, but we have to. And so I thank Chancellor Carroll, that's my chancellor, who is the best chancellor in the system. We all know that, who has done due diligence in working on this for the last couple of years and really has done a good job in bringing in the CSU and the UCs, because initially they were somewhat opposed to it because of the way it came initially. But I think the fact that they've worked out this understanding that's going to have various layers in which campuses will qualify. You won't find every campus qualifying because many have not done the groundwork that needs to be done, a difficult work of putting together a plan and having the faculty and the curriculum and the certifications that are essentially to move forward with it. But I think at this level here, we still have a lot of work to do. Hopefully we will do that in a time frame of this pilot. that will give us a chance to really look at what we're offering, where we are, and what the workforce needs are, and whether or not we're meeting the needs of the children of California in terms of the institutions that we have to offer. So I want to thank the Chancellor for Carroll for the work that she's done, tremendous work, and Senator Block also. And I'll make known to him that you did a great job and that we didn't even know he was absent.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Fox.
The community college in my district is Antelope Valley Community College. We have almost no access to a four-year public institution. We have a few classes from Cal State Bakersfield, but we really don't have programs that we need. Not having access, I'm supporting the bill. I'm asking that you put my college on the list of potential colleges to show the program. I do have some questions for you just to think about. The first, of course, is we have problems getting our units from the junior college, community colleges, transferable to the four-year state. Are we going to have problems when we get the BA at the colleges when someone wants to go into a master's program at the four-year institution? I know you shake your head no, but we're still having problems getting our units transferred. That's question one. Question two is we've lost 500,000 community college students over the last couple of years. Is having these classes, is that going to reduce some of the spaces at the community college for the regular two-year students because we now have a four-year program? I don't want to lose any spaces either. I want my cake and eat it too. So I hope you'll take that and think about those concerns and put my college at the top of your list.
Did you response, Quirk Silva, and then Mr. Jones Sawyer?
Well, Mr. Fox saved me because my rule is to never speak after Assemblymember Weber because she's always so eloquent. But that being said, just the short time I've been on this committee and we've talked about everything from student debt to access to various types of pilot programs. And as I come from the elementary school as a teacher myself, I've kind of looked at it with a different lens. But I had the opportunity last week to see this film that's just coming out called Ivory Tower. Anybody who's in higher education, I really would encourage them to see that film. And the reason being and how it relates today is as much as an advocate I've been for higher education, as much as I have felt deeply we have issues with achievement gap and readiness and all of these issues we talk about, I wasn't focusing on really the crisis we're having as far as the funding for education and as far as the critical point we are really historically in our colleges, in our universities, as far as the affordability and what we're going to do about it. So I have to say, even some of the programs that I might have been concerned about last year, Mr. Williams, we talked about some of those, whether they've been pilot programs with fees or even a program that you brought up earlier, Mr. Jones Sawyer, on pay-as-you-go. I might have been more hesitant. And I have to say, watching that film really opened up a world of, unless we do not only one thing, but many things quickly, we are going to be at a junction where students, and not only students, but their families in our country can't sustain the affordability of the building of the universities as we are, the infrastructure, and the debt. And so anything that we can do now that would not only be a solution, but look towards moving our students to not only get a good education, but a great education, but at a pace that that we can sustain, I'm going to support. So I appreciate this, and thank you.
Mr. John Sawyer.
You know, I share some of the same concerns that Dr. Weber and Mr. Fox and Ms. Olson also had. And I come from a different place. I have, and I've just met Chancellor Carroll and Dr. Carroll, and after listening to Dr. Weber, I have the utmost confidence that San Diego Community College District will take care of the ones that you're kind of leaving behind because you're going with this program. I don't have that confidence. I'm from Los Angeles. I don't have that confidence with Los Angeles Unified School District. Los Angeles Community College School District, because I'm really concerned the African American Latino students there are going to get left behind. And these programs like this, I believe this program is going to be not just successful. I think it's going to be very successful to the point where all the successful students, the ones that want to progress and do things, will enter into this program, and you may have an 80, 70% graduation rate. But the thing that I worry about, and hopefully I'm here and the voters vote me in for the next 10 years. I don't want to be here at the end of 10 years and it's still at 30%, and we still have a high rate of African American Latino students still not getting out of community college, still not going to be able to transfer their grades, and we still have these still systemic problems here. And I know it's kind of one doesn't have one to do with the other, and I do believe we need to come up with a variety of different things that we need to do to make students successful. But I just want to make sure that we take care of our core responsibilities and our core duties. And if we're not going to do that, I'd rather have us just stop altogether and make sure we take care of that. And because, again, there's some of us that are sitting around here that plan to be here 10 years from now when you come back here and talk about how great this program is working, and we still have the same problems that we had before. We're not moving the bulk of the students forward. But even more so, we go to this program, and this program becomes the one that we kind of highlight and we move on, and it expands. And like some of my colleagues have expressed, we start having fewer and fewer seats for those students. Many of you have already come here and during the budget season and belated how you need more money for seats and more money to get more students enrolled. We gave you that, and you will have that. But I'm not feeling it right now that you'll be able to get that done. And this is just another thing. I don't want to sound like I'm talking to my kids, but like my kids, they want to start something new when they haven't completed their first assignment. And so I'm really concerned that you complete your core activities. I will probably lay off today to see if you can come back to me with some more assurances. Again, I think San Diego's good, but you can come back to me with more assurances that the everyday student that's trying to get through this process, that's not having a real good time getting through and taking 6 years, 8 years, 10 years to get through, doesn't know whether or not they can graduate or whether or not they can transfer. We can solve all those problems too at the same time. Thank you.
I was hesitant for some of the same reasons identified by Mr. Jones Sawyer and Dr. Weber. I think you've heard here that we really want the core mission of the community college to be improved and dealt with, because we are of great concern that that students who are coming through of certain demographics and certain levels of preparedness, that is right, are doing just fine, but that the completion rates for the majority of the students that we are now serving in the state are not just fine. And we just cannot, we as a state can't complete our higher education goals if those students are left behind. But I also am an avid believer in giving students options and choices in order to help them determine the best way for them to achieve post-secondary educational goals. That's why I authored AB 955, and I do think that because this bill has been narrowed to tackle degrees that students need to get jobs and that are not being provided at the CSU and UC, that I am comfortable with the direction of the bill. I think it's modest, 450 students. It's not, a huge, scary precedent. To me, that is something that we could really see if this works. And it may, if it's successful, it may help us deal with the fact that we are not completing enough 40-year degrees to meet our workforce needs. So with that, I definitely want to give it, with the amendments, my support. And the motion, is there a motion? We need a motion do pass. There's a motion by Levine, a second by Bloom, do pass to appropriations as amended. Please call the roll.
Williams.
Aye.
Williams, aye. Chavez. Aye. Chavez, aye. Bloom. Aye. Bloom, aye. Fong. Fox. Aye. Fox, aye. Jones Sawyer. Jones Sawyer not voting. Levine. Levine, aye. Linder. Aye. Linder, I. Medina. Medina, I. Olson. Olson, I. Quirk Silva. Quirk Silva, I. Weber. Weber, I. Wilk.